The fans are getting restless in Cowtown, but if you're on Team Tank, it's all coming up Millhouse. Hey, why don't you come along for the party?
Well, Chris, how about that? We've coming off of back-to-back losses here. The Flames are back to below 500 and not really looking all that strong. That game against Minnesota was probably the second worst game of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, they look pretty bad.
Leaving the both goaltenders out to dry, Wolf and Vladar. I think Vladar wasn't as good as other people seem to think, but that doesn't excuse the fact that they were absolute dog shit in front of him.
Yeah, it's interesting. We started the weekend in a wild card spot, and we're now 3 wins behind, 4 points behind, even in the wild card, just over the span of a couple of days. So things happen fast in the NHL.
Yeah, lots of teams are really close in with us, and Minnesota, probably one the Flames wanted to have. I think it was as somebody in Team Tank, I kind of am happy that we didn't beat Minnesota. Still would have liked to have seen a more entertaining game and a more valiant effort, but Minnesota, like it's best, I think, for us to be not winning games until a couple of these guys get traded, and then I like, it's not like I just want us to lose every game for the rest of the season. I want us to be in games. I just think it's time to make sure that Murray Edwards signs off on signing on trading, Lindholm, Hannafin especially, and maybe Tanev. Although I wouldn't mind keeping Tanev. Seems like a good teacher for young defensemen. But he wants to
Yeah,
win too. So
yeah, I'm on the same page, to be honest. If we end up signing Tanev, I wouldn't be upset about it.
yeah,
I think he could potentially, he is slowing down. You can tell, so he could potentially be part of the third pairing and and be paired up with a rookie, and teach him the ropes, teach him the proper way to play defense, how to cover your zone and all that fun stuff. I think that's the only benefit out of all the UFAs that we have would be TANF to help mold the future. I don't feel like Hannafin or Lindholm could even begin to do that. Hannafin especially. Lindholm can at least teach a guy, I would think, how to be a little more defensive responsible, or be a little more responsible in the defensive zone. So I
yeah,
think, but I still don't want to sign him to a 8-year contract worth any. I don't want him on an 8-year contract if it's more than 5.5, to be honest.
yeah. Like an 8-year deal is just nonsensical for really any of our players. Like
Mhm.
the way the NHL is, most teams are signing their mid-tier players to long-term deals, and um, I think that kind of needs to stop if teams want to not be in cap hell all the time and actually have some flexibility and the ability to sign their superstars long term. Then they've got to make sure they keep the money and keep the contracts at a relatively decent length, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean we're up against it as it is right now. We need to shed contracts with, with Zadorov and, that situation just to hopefully free up enough space to be able to bring somebody back if need be on a trade on Lindholm or Hannafin that'll up the ante and hopefully get us that first plus pieces, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find this here because I polled Flames Hub the other day on what people would be comfortable with Lindholm, like what number here it is. Um, yeah, like because we know Lindholm's looking for 9 million, $9.5 million over 8 years, or not over 8 years, but on an 8 year deal, which seems ridiculous considering how he's played this year. Um,
And last year.
and last year. And like we have 2% of the people who were polled saying $9 million is fine with them. 24% being okay with 8.5, 34% being okay with 8, 6% saying 7.5 max, and 13% saying 7 max, and 5% saying 6.5 max, and then a bunch of people adding their own options, which weren't even really part of the question. But yeah, it,
How
it
many
seems like
percentage?
it seems like
Yeah,
the most people said 8 million max, and honestly, like
I'm
if
not
he
doing
were
that
to
either.
agree with that, I wouldn't hate it. I just don't think he would agree with it, and I really wouldn't want 8 years. But
No, if we're going as high as 8 mil, 5 is the max
yeah,
for me for timing. But I even at that I don't feel comfortable doing it.
yeah,
I'm as far as I'm concerned, trade him.
yeah,
He's
and
been a
like
good player. He's been on a great value deal and all that. I get that, but we're not in that mode right now. And the only way for us to get into the winning side of things is to build it, right? We need to get rid of the contracts that we have to make room for future growth.
no, and I agree. Like I think both you and I, even like not looking at the 1 year with Gaudreau and Kachuk, I still think that you and I have been big fans of Lindholm for the last several years, but pretty much since the second he joined the
Mhm.
Flames. I've really liked him. I think that any competitive team needs a strong two-way center, whether
Yeah,
it's on their first line or their second line. Um, and we were lucky enough to have him in Backlund for a long time. But I totally agree with you. Just where our team is in its window of competitiveness, which is literally nowhere.
no,
Um, you look at assets like that, like Lindholm, like Hannafin, and you say, okay, where, how much money they're making this year, plus the fact that the team trading for them would be able to likely sign them long term. You could get such a good return on those two guys that it
no,
could help vault you into the future and help get you so many good young assets that you don't have to go through an 8 year rebuild. You might only have to do 2, 3, 4 years before actually starting the uphill swing. Whether it's being competitive that soon, probably not, but you at least start to see some of the assets grow into being legitimate NHLers in 2, 3, 4 years.
Absolutely. If you're, if you're doing a rebuild, you obviously you're not competing for the cup in 3, 4 years, but you want to see significant signs of growth and and just and become more competitive and show that you're advancing as a team and as a club, looking like you're going to actually be competitive. I would say a 5-year mark, 6-year mark. At least be in the conversation of second, third round in the playoffs. Like,
Totally agree. And like,
we're,
how often have we got to the second round? Twice in the last 20 years.
last 23 times.
Yeah, that's
You know,
it's not good
not
enough.
good enough. No, it's not. It's not good enough at all. And yeah, it's just simply not good enough. Yeah, so we did it when in '04, did it in 2015, and then again 2021,
22, 21. Yeah.
22. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was
Same.
21, right?
Yeah. I wasn't really, I guess
Mm,
19 years was my what I should have
yeah,
said, not 20. But
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Um yeah, I mean, I think most of the fan base is kind of on board with at least getting younger um for a little bit. I think Zari and Pospisil and maybe to some point Wolf have kind of shown some of the people who weren't sure that youth and skill and speed and excitement can actually help a lot, and you don't just need to keep going after it. As much as we like Blake Coleman or whatever,
mm,
those guys, as much as some people like Kadri, those guys are guys that you go after while you're competitive as the final piece, not
yeah, exactly. They're
yeah,
additions to a winning team, right?
yeah. And which is
Yeah,
why I liked the Coleman signing at the time, because I thought that he would be like maybe not the final piece, but one of the last pieces to the puzzle of what we had going.
yeah, yeah. It
Um,
all it all really went to shit there, right? When it all happened right around the time of you know, even just Monahan's injuries, right? Things were just starting to just kind of go to hell as far as that group was, and then of course Brad did us no favors with bridge deals and low ball offers and stuff like that. It's just like, come on, man, like you're killing us here. But I
Lack
think
of
I think
foresight.
having guys like lack of foresight. Some call it stupidity. Everybody's got a word for it.
Try
I
not
think
to
having
try
guys
not to
like
be too
Zari come
mean.
in. No,
Go ahead.
no,
Sorry.
I'll be mean. I don't care. He
Yeah.
he screwed us for a number of years, which is whatever. Now we just need to rebuild and move forward with it and not look back. I think
Totally
having
agree.
guys like Zari coming in to and take over, not really take over games, but really show that he can be dominant on the ice. Maybe it could be just given the right partner or line mates, who knows? But as it is right now, he's really looked good. His ability to hang on to the puck and just make really smart plays um, is something I didn't see before that. I didn't realize that he had that in him. I was
Yeah.
excited to see what he had to offer and all that fun stuff, but actually watching him on the ice is has been refreshing. I'm really enjoying watching him. I think he's going to be part of our top six for a number of years, which I'm excited for.
I totally agree, and I think I said this on the last show. My kind of ceiling for him going into this season, after seeing him in the last couple of camps and being really impressed with him, and after watching a few Wranglers games last year, I think I watched 3 or 4 Wranglers games last year in the regular season and 2 in the playoffs. Um, I kind of had him pegged as a ceiling of a second line center. And I kind of feel like he has it in him to be more than that. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna say he's gonna hit that, but I'm saying his floor is a second line player now, whereas his ceiling might be a little bit higher. It might not be, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
If as long as he plays how he's been playing, like his poise with the puck and his ability to put the puck in safe areas even when there's nobody around, like none of his teammates around, to protect the puck like he did on the power play there against Vancouver, which we'll talk about. Um, Make plays, stand in front of the net, tip pucks. He's got all of the tools, and I think,
Yeah.
putting on, working a couple summers on maybe some muscle, and getting some line mates who aren't Nazem fucking Kadri, um, might really help.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of what's happening with the fan base kind of potentially turning around on the idea or the concept of rebuilding is having a guy like Zari and seeing what he can do. Leading up to that, we had, Peltier last year who, don't get me wrong, he's exciting and fun to watch and whatnot, but he's not near the caliber of Zari. So I think being able to witness that we do have something that's, at least a couple of pieces coming up from the minors that can be game changers and can be everyday NHLers right now, I think has probably changed the tune on a lot of the fans.
I totally agree. And
Mm.
just to rewind on Zari before we go away from him, um, I can't remember if we talked about this on the last show, or if we just talked about it um, while watching the games and stuff. But
Mhm.
I'm ready for him to be a center. I don't think, like,
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, he's been good on the wing, and I get why you bring young centers up and put them on the wing for the first little while or whatever. But like I said, he's poised enough, and he makes smart enough plays, and he's got some defensive reads. Like, I think
Mhm.
that he has what it takes to be a full-time center at the NHL level. And I think that um them not having him as a center is kind of a waste, which is another reason why I think making that room by potentially trading Lindholm. I'm not saying, automatically to put him on the second or on the first line, but
Right.
you can shuffle them around. Maybe move Kadri up, even though I hate that idea. But being able to put a guy who's that responsible at center is so important for your team.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would be okay with him even just to switch over with Kadri at the moment, just to give him reps at that position, right?
Yeah, yeah. Can you remember last time we had a young player come in and we talked about them, like, not just the offensive upside, but also like defensive responsibility, like we do with Sorry? I can't remember one since.
It's it's been a long time,
Yeah.
a long, long time since before you and I started doing podcasts. That's for sure.
Oh,
Since
yeah.
we started doing this, there has not been a single one.
No. Like, even Kachuk and Monahan, like, yeah, we were excited about their offensive upside, but we never really talked about them defensively. Monahan ever, and Kachuk until the last couple of years of him being here. Like, there was
Mhm.
never really any of that, and so it's another reason why I think it's important to have him at center.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when it came to Monahan as well as Kachuk, my feeling was like, initially, yeah, sure, let's bring him in and let's see what we can do. Where when it comes to Zari right now, like he needs to be on this team all the time now. Like
Yep.
there's no moving him down. There's no like he's a Calgary Flame.
Like, there's
Period.
not even moving. Like, he hasn't even shown any reason to move him down a line. Never mind down to
No,
the A
even though
or
Huska has kind of dropped him down a little bit, but I think the report was that he was nursing an injury of sorts. So
yeah, he sat him
obviously,
down a couple times on the bench, and I think that
Mhm.
was mostly because of injury. Um,
Didn't he sit a game as well?
Pospisil just did. Zari sat a game, yes, because of injury. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
I'm not worried about that. I mean, obviously, if he has something that's ailing him, then fine. Let's let's heal it up, right? We don't need another Monahan.
yeah, I totally
Sit
agree.
out, sit out some time.
So there's one thing I want to talk about when it comes to it's just a word I've been using, I guess, a lot on like when we're talking online or when I'm, talking to the guys on the radio or when we're talking about the games, sustainability.
Mhm.
And I think that I'm really hoping that Conroy looks at sustainability, the possibility of sustainability more than Tree Living did.
Yeah.
Um, because I see sustainability with Zari's game. Um, but when you look at some of the contracts we have, and not even just the contracts, but the way we've been playing, like I'll start with the contracts. You look at like Mangiapane, he signed after a completely unsustainable year when it came to scoring from his ass and scoring from his belly and in midair and stuff like that's not a sustainable way to score.
Right.
Um, Kadri signed with us after a completely unsustainable season of playing alongside McKinnon and Rantanen and Makar and winning a Stanley Cup. Um, and got paid for it. And that's not sustainable, especially when you're coming to a team with significantly less talent. Um,
Yeah.
and
I mean, he had way too many years under his belt of you know 50 to 60 points, right?
exactly.
Like
And
was
now even Lindholm, like again, we both love Lindholm, but 41 goal season playing alongside two guys who got more than 100 points. Um, is that sustainable with the without the two superstars? It's not. But he's asking for that kind of money. It's not sustainable. So why would we do that? So I can't.
well. I mean,
Bronson Huberdeau,
for
115
me,
points. Is that sustainable? No.
no.
Did we expect him to go to 60 points? No. But 115 wasn't sustainable. He's getting paid for 115. You know what I mean?
I think with Lindholm, it's not even so much that it's he literally does not drive the line. He doesn't create the offense. He doesn't cause anything. And ever since his line mates that he gelled with very well have disappeared, so has Elias Lindholm.
Except for
Like,
defensively.
sure, yeah, absolutely. But you
But
don't
that's
pay somebody $9 million for defense, right? And he
exactly.
needs to know that. If he's not being told that, then he's being lied to, and
Yeah.
he's. I don't think he'll get 9 mil from any team. I don't think he's worth it. He doesn't produce enough. I mean, we talked about how he's got that 200-foot game, and he was always talked about not in the same conversation, but at least for the Selkie and stuff like that, right? But he doesn't have the points that um yeah, what the hell's his name from Boston? Why am I
Bergeron.
blanking on his name? Yeah, Bergeron. Like he doesn't have the points that Bergeron had, and he isn't quite as good at that 200 as Bergeron was.
But that
Um,
that's a, that's a bar that's not.
oh yeah, 100%. But that's like if he had the same relative points, then I could entertain the
Yeah,
9 mil. But like I honestly wouldn't feel comfortable paying him 7 or more
yeah.
in
I,
any
my
situation. I
vote
don't care
there
how many
was
years.
yeah.
Yeah,
My vote there was 7.5,
yeah,
and that's max, right? That's not like what I would be happy with. That's max.
yeah.
Um, But
and it's sad because he's a hell of a lot better player than Kadri is, right?
yeah,
So, if you pay him 7, just say that, obviously in the minds of the people, it'd be, well, he's equivalent to Kadri. No, he's way better than Kadri.
he's
Kadri is worth
yeah,
4
yeah,
at best, right?
4.5 maybe, but yeah,
Yeah. Where Lindholm would actually be worth 7, I think, but he's not worth anything more, in my opinion.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. A couple of the games coming up in the NHL this week. We got the Calgary Flames versus the Nashville Predators, both coming in at -110. Got the Winnipeg Jets versus Tampa Bay Lightning, both also coming in at -110. Got the Edmonton Oilers versus the Carolina Hurricanes. Hurricanes coming in at -142. Devils versus Detroit Red Wings. Devils coming in at -155. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. It's void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the NHL League. Copyright NHL 2023. All rights reserved.
So that's my little rant about sustainability with players.
Mhm.
Now I want to talk about sustainability with the way we play. So everyone's been so happy with all the come from behind wins and come from behind points, whether it be the first Vancouver game, the Islanders game where we lost in the shootout, but we still, came back and got a point out of it. Come back from behind, I think Seattle, I know twice with Dallas. We've had some pretty exciting come from behind victories, but that's not sustainable. Letting the other team score first, sometimes multiple times, is not a sustainable way to win games. Having a shit power play that starts to look better, scores a couple times against Vancouver, but is still one of the worst power plays in the league and hasn't really changed all that much other than personnel. That's not a sustainable way to win games. Um,
Yeah.
Coming out slow in general is just not a good way to win games. And I just found it so funny because we came out for like 20 seconds in the second period against the Wild, and Kelly Rudy's saying on the broadcast, he's like, "Oh, no, I know the period just started, but the Flames look like a whole different team, and they've really come out to play." And then we get scored on. Like, well, he's mid sentence.
Yeah. Yeah. That can we all take a minute and think about how bad Kadri was for diving towards the net on
Was that the
on
first or the second one?
I think that was the
Oh
second
no,
one.
that was Wolf. He took Wolf
Yeah,
out, so that was the fourth one.
yeah, 4th or 5th. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a what a stupid play to make.
Yeah,
I mean,
I had somebody
I
text me. She's relatively new to watching hockey, and she's been asking me lots about the rules and stuff. And she was asking me about why isn't that goaltender interference? I'm like, well, because Kadri like did it all himself. Like he didn't get pushed or tripped and went from so
He,
far out. He's like, but she was like, oh well, but it's still goalie interference. I'm like, could you
I
imagine
agree with her.
if
I agree
every
with her
time a shot
wholeheartedly.
was that?
Yeah, I agree with her wholeheartedly. Kadri should have sat in the box for 2 minutes for that.
Yeah,
In fact, it should have been a major because that was a
yeah,
major fuck up.
yeah. Should have been a technical. Just put him
Yeah,
out for the whole game.
yeah, yeah. I would have been fine with a match, to be honest. Like I could. That was just so stupid. Like he's
Yeah,
done a lot of stupid things on the ice, but that one just I was like, what the hell was that?
that's such a bad timing, and to a guy who's played like you know two games ever.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but is what
Um,
so that's basically my whole little section there on sustainability when it comes to players and sustainability when it comes to not coming out and playing well to start and not coming out and playing well um, on the power play ever. You got anything to say about that? Or
yeah. As far as not, I mean, you say that we can't just continue to come from behind and win games. I mean, nobody told that to the Flames in 2015 when they were the comeback kids. Made the second round. I mean,
yeah.
come on now.
So that's
Yeah,
1 year, just like Mangiapane scoring from his ass and his belly and Bobby Oring it for an entire year. It's not sustainable
mhm,
to do for more than 1 year, if it
that's
is
true.
even sustainable to do for 1 year.
Yeah, some call it luck.
Yes, exactly.
And like
You
Mangiapane
make
scoring
your own bounces.
35. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, and it's so tough that like right now we're we're back to letting in the first shot again, and so I mean the team immediately is. I mean they're starting the game down, and that sucks. That's not a good position to be in. And but I mean yes, the game against the Wild was atrocious as far as defense was concerned. Like
And
probably one of the worst games they played defensively in a decade.
and the fact that that's the second worst game this year is scary
Mhm. Yeah.
because that was a horrible game. Like the St. Louis game we played near the start of the season, that was worse.
Yeah.
Um, this is it's pathetic, is what it is.
Yeah.
Um, call yourselves professional athletes.
And these people want 9 mil.
Yeah. Oh, you
Uh,
want to recap the two games and um,
Nothing would make me happier. Both losses. Whew. Team tank,
both
baby.
losses. I guess we scored a couple power play goals in Vancouver. Oh, it's a 4-3 loss. Obviously Zadorov's first game as a Canuck and his first game back against Calgary also. What
Mhm.
you got any thoughts on that?
I mean, he was pretty much a non-factor.
Yeah.
The crowd gave him the treatment that they should have, gave him the booze that they should have. Can't just request a trade and
Yeah.
expect a video montage. That's not how that works.
I agreed. And usually I like I like how smart a lot of Flames fans are, and I like how it's the reason why the building gets quiet when things aren't going well or whatever. But I still wish the building was more alive a lot of the time.
Mhm.
However, I do appreciate how the fans in the building kind of quieted down and stopped booing once they realized that they were there to see a game and not just Zadorov. and the
Right.
game wasn't going very well.
No, it really wasn't. The Yeah, it was a weird game. There was too much hype and too much conversation about, Zadorov making his return literally after one day. So I mean, it's so what, right?
Yeah,
It's not like he's been gone for any amount of time.
he
But I mean,
literally didn't even leave the city.
no, exactly. We it was one of those first shot went in. Um,
Quinn Hughes.
we were down 2-0, in the first within the first 10 minutes of the first period, and you just knew that's how that game was going to go, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, I want to get your thought on something. 'Cause, like, obviously, we'll skip ahead here a little bit. Hughes and Lafferty both scored, make it 2-0. Backlund came back with a nice little tip and scored there.
Yep.
And then Mikheyev scored in the second period, and then in the third period, they pulled the goalie way too early, I thought, and that's what everybody thought was Zadorov score, but was actually Pedersen.
Mhm.
Um, but they like, what's your opinion on pulling the goalie? Like, I know we were down, but I think that personally, I think pulling the goalie as early as they have been in the last couple of years, and I don't just mean the Flames, I mean most teams,
Yep.
it allows the other team to almost just ice the puck and hope that they'll score, and they quite often do. Um,
I mean, they can do that regardless, right? It doesn't matter if you give them 1 minute or 3 minutes. I
yeah,
think
but
like 2 minutes is a pretty standard time to pull your goalie now. To give you that time to try and set up. I find it dumber to pull your goalie when we're on the power play, because not only do you give them free shots at your net, they're not even penalized for missing.
yeah, which
Um,
is fair.
but as but as far as I don't have a problem with pulling the goalie at 2 minutes. But what I do have a problem with is the Flames when they have a man advantage.
Yeah, I mean,
To
they
me,
scored on the
they
power
did score.
play, and it's funny because they scored both on the power play and they scored with an empty net
Yeah,
on the power play.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they did it all there that I don't like, right?
Yeah,
Or that I yeah. But no, I definitely don't have an issue with pulling the goalie with two
at 2
minutes.
minutes, I don't mind, but a lot of the time I see it 3-4 minutes, and I know we were, not specifically in this game, but I know that sometimes the team's down by two or whatever, but I still
Mhm.
think, like, work hard 5-on-5 until that 2 minute mark, or even until the 1.5 minute mark. I just think that too often teams are working without a goalie in their net for 3 or 4 minutes, and it's just
Yeah.
like I'd be curious to see what the numbers are, but you got to think that a lot more, empty net goals are scored than game tying goals are scored in that situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it could be. I mean the empty net thing has been a thing for as long as I can remember.
Oh, for sure. Um,
And I think, before the standard was, pretty close to a minute. Now it's closer to, I think the standard's probably closer to 2.5.
yeah, I know that when Patrick Waugh was coaching the Avalanche, he got criticized pretty hard a couple times for going at like 5 minutes,
Right.
which is ridiculous. And I think that could have also been that year where they were record breaking for being the worst team in the cap era. I can't remember, but
Mm.
yeah. Um. Anyways, Lindholm got a couple goals that game, which was good to see.
Yeah.
A couple of too little, too late type of goals, but still a couple goals. I think Sharon Govich is really starting to show what he is. Do I think he'll ever be Tyler Toffoli? No, but I also think that people who criticize that trade, first of all, it's way too early to tell, and second of all, you're missing that the trade is more than just player for player. It's also age related and contracts. A trade request because of contract disagreements and all that type of stuff, right?
Yeah,
I don't
there was
think
a
he's
lot of
going to be a
factors in that one.
35 goal scorer or whatever Toffoli can do, but I think he's going to be a perfectly fine, middle six winger for us for many years.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. He's actually he's gotten a lot better in the last like 5 games. He's
A lot more
I think he's going to be around the 20. He'll be like a 20 to 25 goal guy, which I'm totally fine with. We got to pick back with him plus shed salary, and yeah, I have no issue with the trade. The player requested to be traded away, so that's what you do.
See ya. Yeah, no, I agree. All right. Well, moving on, I guess. Let's go on to the
Okay.
Wild game, which was a ton of fun.
Was it?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I have Kaprizov and Boldy in my one fantasy team, so that's
Uh,
okay. But
I almost fell asleep twice. It was
yeah,
typical Tuesday night Minnesota's in town hockey, but
yeah,
we were
except
just that bad and allowed for all those goals.
yeah,
If
we actually
if
outshot them.
sure, yeah,
Yeah, and we were 59% on the faceoffs,
holy,
but 0% on the power play. So
yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah, stark contrast from the Vancouver, right? This game, Backlund was at 63.6, Lindholm was at 70.
oh
Um,
wow,
Dubé was at 50. I don't think he took many though. Ruzicka was at 40, and Kadri was at 47.1. Where in Vancouver, it was completely different. Backlund was at 37.5, Lindholm was at 52.4, and Kadri was at 70.
that's weird.
So it's all depending on who you're matched up against, right? Obviously, especially when it comes to face-offs.
Yeah. Well, anybody that watched this Wild game probably very disappointed with it, but no. Obviously they jumped out to the 3-0 lead after uh, you know after about a minute and a half, actually exactly a minute and a half of the second period. Um, and I went back and looked because I know a lot of people have been saying how good Vladar played um,
In the first.
in the first, which is fair. He I think he could have had the Foligno shot, but I also think he probably could have let a couple more goals in the first that he didn't. So I'll give him that. But I don't think the Kaprizov or the Boldy goal were unsavable. I think that um, there was one that bounced off the post. The Kaprizov bolt goal bounced off the post and then went right to Kaprizov, and it looked kind of like an unsavable goal until you realize that it leaked through him. He was looking right at it, and it leaked through him in order to hit the post and then go to Kaprizov. Again, none of this, excuses the team from being just putrid in front of him, but I thought that all of the goals that he let in were very, very savable, and his 877 or whatever it was um, shows that, quite frankly.
Is eight like his save percentage is his save percentage was 813.
Sorry, it's 877 on the season, which is
Okay. Yeah.
pretty descriptive of his season thus far, which has been one good game and several not good games. I think he masks it by he makes some really good saves in all of his games, but he lets in bad goals. Like we said about Markstrom last year, um, and maybe partially this year. I don't think Markstrom's let in nearly as many bad goals this year as he did last year, or even nearly as much as Vladar does.
Yeah, he hasn't done it as much, but he's done it almost every single game. Markstrom has this year.
I'd say there's probably like 4 or 5 games he hasn't, but
Mhm.
you know, also unacceptable. But I also don't think that praising Vladar for being good is legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was great. He was really good in the first period. I think it could have easily have been 3-0 after the first. He made some really nice saves in the first. The second period when they came out and we just broke down. You're right. That one shot that Kaprizov took off the post, the puck did go through him. Why is Kaprizov allowed to stand a foot and a half away from our net like that untouched? I don't know. That
Especially
still pisses
Kaprizov.
me off. Yeah.
And
Um,
again, like I said, it doesn't excuse the team from being shit in front of him. It's
yeah.
just it shouldn't have leaked through him to begin with. He was staring at it the whole time. Um,
Yeah.
and I thought that this was probably his second game of having good puck tracking. But the fact that he let the ones that he let in, even though he saw them, is what frustrates me.
Yeah.
Because usually he can't fucking see anything.
Yeah. It's super bizarre to watch him track the puck. He's not very good at that, I must say.
I want to talk about Wolf a little bit. I know you're not ready to see him full time or anything, and I don't think he should be full time either. But um, obviously, we're in a scenario where it's kind of time to see what he's got. Hopefully, give him a couple of games here in the next week or so.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I mean, that's the only way we're going to be able to see what we have in him, right? Do we need to continue to shop for a goalie, or are we going to eventually have ourselves a starter in the kid, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he just looks so small in the net.
Oh,
I
he
mean,
sure
obviously he's
does.
very athletic, right? Which is great. Um, the only thing that kind of worries me when it comes to that is as the years progress, he's not going to have the reflexes as he does now. And given that size, I don't know how sustainable it is for him to have a lasting career as a starting goaltender.
That's fair. And I can see where you're coming from there. And positioning, which I think Wolf is really good at,
Mhm.
means a lot less when you're not taking up 3/4 of the net just by standing there.
Right.
Um, However, it's night and day, I think, between him and Vladar when it comes to actually watching their heads while they're watching the puck while they're trying to fight through traffic. Like, I don't see Vladar or I see Markstrom do it a little bit, but I don't see Vladar fight through traffic at all to try and see the puck
Yeah.
most of the time. Um, Whereas Wolf is like he's fighting through traffic and he knows where it is and he follows it really, really well. I find. Um,
Yeah, he's good at tracking the puck for sure.
He's got to get up to NHL speed a little bit, for sure. And I'm excited to hopefully see him. I think he probably gets 2 more games in the next week and a half or so. We have a really busy schedule, so
Yeah, he's going to get some reps for sure. We don't know how long Markstrom's going to be out. Huska did say week to week, but he's optimistic that it'll be
more like a week and a bit.
sooner than later. We'll see. As they discussed on I guess through social media with the insiders, that it was pretty bloody and a fracture. So to me, that suggests a compound. But we don't know. Obviously, we're not gonna have that information ahead of us.
Yeah,
So hopefully he's back fairly soon.
yeah. So
But I mean, let's run with Dustin and Vladar. You know, maybe Vladar can up his game a bit here and make himself tradable. Who knows?
that would be nice. I mean, not that we need to trade him right away, because Vladar still, or sorry, Wolf can still be sent up and down without having to clear waivers. But I do think that decision on which guy you're going to go with is going to have to be by this trade deadline, or at the very, very latest at the end of this season. And I think you got to make sure you get Wolf enough games that you actually see what you have.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah, you can't just trade people now and then try and find out later. That's not going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a Brad thing.
Yeah. So I wanted to see Wolf before, because I thought that the team was playing a lot better defensively
Right.
before the last couple games. And I'm kind of choked. I mean, it's good because you get to see more of what Wolf can do when the team's kind of shit in front of him. But
Yeah.
also, I kind of wish we like it almost looked like that Minnesota game looked like they had watched tape from the first 5, 6, 7 games of the season or whatever, 10 games of the season, and been told this is what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like they went right back to everything that made them bad and everything that made the whole fan base pissed off for the first chunk of the season.
Yeah, the first, 10 games really.
Yeah. And it just would have been nice to have seen Wolf once or twice. I guess we saw him once, but a couple of times while the team was still playing well. Hopefully they can get back to playing well defensively, or at least better defensively in front of them. But at least give him a legitimate chance to show what he's got and not just be left out to dry on every single play and not be taken out by your own players who are making puzzling slip and slide-ish type decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, his last game, that was the San Jose game last year, right? Last time he played NHL. I
Didn't he
believe.
get one this year?
Yeah, he probably did. Let's see.
Yeah, he did. He's played 2 this year.
Yeah, you're right. The one, like, we were not that bad defensively in that first one that he played. I mean, we weren't great by any means.
Yeah.
But we weren't like we were last night, that's for sure, or against Minnesota.
Yeah. He
And
played
even like,
Ottawa 4-1
right.
loss.
Yeah, right. Yeah. 4-1 loss. I mean, he had 30 was it 30, no, they would have had 42 shots, right? Because he had 38 saves. So obviously
Yeah.
they peppered him with shots. I feel like it wasn't one of those games where there was a ton of high quality shots, kind of like
Yeah.
taking a page out of the Flames handbook, right? But I mean, still, we got to get his numbers up. We weren't that bad in front of him in that first one. I didn't think he looked good at all against Ottawa. And his numbers reflect that, and so do his numbers. His numbers reflect that in against Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like we need more from him, and now's his time to show that he has it.
I agree.
I hope
And
he
I know
proves.
it's a
I hope
really,
he
really
proves me
small
wrong.
sample size, being like a game and a half,
Mhm.
but his numbers are his save percentage is better than Vladar's, anyways. Um,
Yeah, just slightly. Yeah,
ye-
0.05 is not something that we're gonna brag about.
no.
Yeah.
Um, well, I guess we'll move on from Wolf. I mean, I know we're both fairly. I'm excited. You're probably more intrigued than excited. I'd say probably. Hey.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I obviously he's dominated the A and he dominated the Western League. That's great, and I like that. So he has a good backing for or he has a good case for becoming a really good NHL goaltender. I just want to see it. You know,
Yeah.
I hope he becomes that. I obviously do. Especially if you can find a way to draft somebody 214th overall and they end up being your your big your big stud right at net. I mean that's huge.
Like, there's a legitimate chance that in 2 years, our best defenseman and our best goaltender are both seventh round picks.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
being Uyghur, obviously.
right.
Um,
Yeah, would that be something?
yeah. So I just want to quickly say something about Zari, because I haven't I saw him do it lots when I was watching him in the AHL. Um, standing in front of the net and tipping pucks or screening goalies. I found he's been more of a playmaker on the NHL ice this season.
Mhm.
But that goal he scored, I think we all kind of thought it was Solovyov to start, because the puck came off Solovyov's stick. But Zari's hand-eye on that, and his ability to take the eyes out of the goaltender too was quite impressive. And yet another skill set he has that I'm not sure if many people have seen, just because he hasn't really used it thus far in the NHL.
Right, right.
So that's something to be excited about, anyways. I found, even though obviously the game sucked and we had already lost it.
I think I mean there's lots to be excited about when it comes to Zari. I think he's only begun and will even improve with what he's offered us so far. So to me that's super exciting.
It's only scratched the surface, honestly.
Mhm. Yeah.
Solovyov had a really rough game. I quite liked his first couple games. He played two, right? Before, or was it just one?
Yeah, I think it's a couple.
Yeah, I remember being impressed with his positioning, even against the Oilers in the Heritage Classic, where the rest of the team was shit. Um, and I thought at that point he was the only player on the ice who had really got the zone D down, and I think that's just because he was doing it in the AHL too. Um,
Yeah.
so I was impressed with him before, but he had a really rough game. Even though he got his first point and all that, I thought that, unfortunately, I mean, young players do especially young defensemen who are supposed to be shutdown defensemen.
Mhm.
Once they start playing, world class Kirill Kaprizov and those type of guys, right? They can have rough times, and I thought he had a really rough one.
Yeah, he's got some learning to do at this level.
Yeah.
which
I'm
which
not
we
really
already
choked
we already
about it.
knew. No, as long as he improves with it, right?
Exactly. As long as he can
Let's see what he
learn.
looks like in his next game.
I want to point this out
Mm.
too. I don't know how often you listen or watch the post game interviews or the pre game interviews or anything, but between him and Sharon Govich, neither of them can speak a lick of English, and they are both fucking hilarious.
Sorry, I
Solovyov,
I haven't heard either one of them speak a word.
fair enough.
Mm.
Solovyov has he guaranteed a victory in the next game, by the way.
Well, I'll put it in the bank. Jeez, holy, that's
You
you
could
better
just
watch
hear
out, Carolina.
right? You could just
That's
hear
hilarious.
the interviewer laughing in the background. Like I love that stuff, man.
That's
Especially
great.
young guys who who can't really speak English
Mm.
very well and don't know what they're
Yeah,
saying, man. That stuff's fucking hilarious to me.
yeah, that's great. That's really funny.
Yeah.
So we got a pretty heavy schedule coming up here in the next week and a bit. We got obviously Thursday against Carolina. Got the Devils in town on Saturday. Monday Avalanche we're in Colorado, followed by a quick turnaround traveling to Las Vegas for Tuesday. Hopefully we can get a show in next Wednesday, I believe, because then we're in Minnesota again on Thursday. Redemption night, I'm going to call it, next Thursday, the 14th.
I think that's an important one to lose.
We'll look at the standings after the other 4 games.
Yeah. And
I'll see.
Minnesota's been hot.
Yeah,
Gustafson's found his game. I think they've got 4 straight wins now. They fired their coach. That happens.
that'll do it. Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've got, what is it, 7 games in 13 days now, or sorry, 7 games in 11 days now.
Yeah.
We are packed, and it's, I think Minnesota would be the least threatening of the teams that we're facing in this upcoming stretch.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in for another show. We'll make sure we keep you up to date. Don't forget to follow us on the socials, on X, ArmChair GM_pod. We're on Facebook, obviously. You can follow us on the Hockey Podcast Network through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, that sort of thing. Dylan likes to chat it up on Reddit, so give him some shit on that platform as well.
Please do.
So please do. Well, everybody, till we catch you next time. Go Flames.
Cheers, Team Tank.
Team Tank.